back to Java Joe's here in Des Moines. 46 past the hour. Joining us now, Republican presidential candidate Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky.
Senator, if there's a surprise tonight as far as somebody doing much better, I think it's you. I think you've talked about it. Your supporters don't seem to be as represented in the polls as others.
One of the interesting things is when you look at the polls, sometimes there's nobody under 30 in the poll. Often there are very few people under 40 in the poll. But typically in the caucus, about a third of the voters in the caucus are under 40, and yet they're not showing up in any of the polls.
You had an event last night, 1,500 people at it.
1,500 people at the University of Iowa. Great, raucous crowd. I mean, a lot of enthusiasm. We have 100 young men and women every day for the last 3 or 4 weeks making phone calls. They've made 1 million phone calls in Iowa.
So how do you think you're going to come out of this? You're not expecting to win, I assume, but where do you think you'll get to?
No, I don't know why not. I've never lost a race.
But what about the...
I've never lost a race
But
before.
you talked about the polls, but the Des Moines Register poll hasn't been wrong since when, 1988 or something like that?
Yeah, there's always a first. I think the polls are becoming increasingly erratic, all of them, because it's much more difficult to get people on the phone. Even the pollsters will tell you this. It's hard to find people on the phone. It's hard to find young people. It's hard to get the spread that you need for the demographic. So I think the polls are way off. In Kentucky, about a month or two ago, we had a governor's race. Every poll said the Democrat would win by 5 and the Republican
Everyone
would
was
win by 8.
wrong. John Heilman.
13, 14 points in a two-person race.
Yeah.
I think there's a very good chance we'll see a lot of surprises tonight.
The other day, Senator Cruz said to a group of pastors that if Donald Trump won Iowa and strengthened New Hampshire, that he might be unstoppable. Do you agree with that assessment of Senator Cruz?
No, I think it's going to go on a while because I think a lot of people, both establishment and those of us on the right who distrust big government, we worry about a Trump nomination in the sense that we don't see him as being part of the limited government philosophy. We are worried that government gets bigger and that he's promising to fix things, but he's promising to fix things if you give him power. And a lot of us think power corrupts, and we ought to have a smaller central government, not a bigger one.
But the animating sort of sentiment of his base of support seems to be the opposite. It seems to be that they trust him because as an outsider, he is not corrupt. So why do you think he's resonating so powerfully?
You know, I think people, if he were the nominee, will be very sorry, conservatives, because conservatives are always mad at all the deal making that goes on in Washington. What's the art of the deal? I mean, this is going to be a guy that's going to make a deal with everybody. He's already said, yeah, I'm fine with the Clintons. I've bought them many times. You know, I buy and sell influence. That's what I do.
But another thing that people are exasperated by is the gridlock. And, you know, you've been part of filibusters. I mean, do you think that's where the party is?
Yeah, but our founding fathers wanted to have a certain amount of check and balance and not make it easy. There are times when things get uncorked and we actually do things expeditiously. When we were attacked on 9/11, the vote was nearly unanimous to respond. When we were attacked at Pearl Harbor, nearly unanimous. So when we have a real momentum, we can make decisions up there. But for the most part, government needs to be kind of slow and thoughtful because some of us don't want more government. We want less government. So the fact that it takes a while to get things is sometimes good.
Senator Rand Paul, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
And we will have